important and an honor for us to have you with us, and please, the floor is yours.
Much and quite suitable. I'm a bit late. I'm sorry for that, Madam Under Secretary General, because I just came out of the event of Women, Peace and Security, celebrating 25 years of Resolution 1325, making also clear how far have we come. And I would like to thank at the beginning you, dear President, for having me here, inviting me, or a bit invited myself, because for me it is very important to discuss together with you, with legal experts, in a situation where I believe things are not only under pressure, but things which we took for granted for decades are not so given anymore. Because when we are celebrating now in this session 80 years of the United Nations, we always remember ourselves that this institution was born out of the ashes of war and horror, that the founders of the UN were determined to emerge from an era of devastation with a new direction on humanity based on an international legal order, based on principles and rules for states to live peacefully together, principles and rules that apply for every state, large and small, and even the biggest superpowers, because they have understood, as many legal advisors or all legal advisors have understood, that without clear binding rules governing the rights and obligations of states and peoples would not be possible. Just the opposite. Without them, we would face a world which would end into chaos and atrocities. And for 8 decades, these principles and rules of the UN Charter have endured us as our North Star, guiding the global community towards peace, justice, and cooperation. But unfortunately, we do not live in a perfect world, and unfortunately, we are facing some heavy and some new headwinds. Despite the United Nations member states' commitment to uphold the Charter and international law over the past 8 decades, we have seen too many violations of it. Today, we are witnessing even new and troubling dimensions of these violations. Perpetrators are no longer hiding their actions, but instead brazenly dismiss the rule of law. The crime of all crimes, war of aggression, is returning, and blatant contravention and contradiction of the UN Charter. The protection of civilians in armed conflict is being eroded. New forms of violations, including the detention of UN personnel, are occurring in defiance of the protections owed to international civil servants. Sanctions have been imposed on our International Criminal Court against officials, public servants dedicated to defending the rule of law and holding criminals accountable. And international law is increasingly being applied selectively, while some of these question the principles enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, including non-discrimination regardless of race, sex, religion, or nationality. The sheer scale and frequency of these violations are shocking. But, and this is why I'm here, and I'm believing that the glass is every half full, even having said all these worrying developments, because otherwise you should not be in international diplomacy and in international law. Besides all of this, we cannot remain passive or paralyzed in our shock, because passivity quickly becomes complacency. And we cannot allow cynics to weaponize these failures to discredit our institutions and undermine faith in international law. I'm these days quite often being asked, especially from media, but since the UN has not solved every war, do we still need it? And my answer is always the same. Definitely yes. We need the UN, we need these rules, we need these principles more than ever, because no country in the world would be better off without the United Nations. And when we are facing some of the challenges of international law, Is it really the international law which is not strong in it? Is it really the Charter which is failing? Or is it rather the commitment of individual member states which are not living up to these violations? And we should never forget that the international law, that the international community is only as strong as the commitment of every member state. And again, the opposite is also true, that while there are some of these violations of the Charter and of international law, of international humanitarian law, in balance, the international community remains heavily committed to international law and all its regulations. Despite escalating economic tensions, 3/4 of global trade remain governed under WTO trade laws. Despite war crimes and crimes against humanity, justice and accountability have been delivered through international criminal court decisions. Bless you. And despite the violations of a few, the vast majority of member states continues to uphold international law and even expanding international law because they all know this is their life insurance also for future challenges. Considering, and as I had mentioned, some of these examples by the Undersecretary, the agreement on maritime biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction, or the BBNJ agreement, a landmark treaty to protect our shared maritime biodiversity, adopted only lately in 2023 and entering into force next January, or the United Nations Convention Against Cybercrime, a new mechanism to strengthen cooperation to fight crimes that know no borders, which just opened for signature. And during this session, during this 80th session, the Sixth Committee will continue the work initiated last year towards 2 more legally binding instruments, one on crimes against humanity and another one on protection of persons in the event of disasters. They are not signs of decay. They are signs of determination. And we have seen the power of international law to fill the gaps in political will. Just remember, 6 years ago, 27 students from the Pacific called upon the International Court of Justice to take on the issue of climate change. Many around the world, maybe also some in this room, thought, well, nice try. But 2 years ago, the General Assembly heard these calls and adopted a resolution requesting an advisory opinion. And then in July this year, the International Court of Justice issued its landmark advisory opinion on states' climate obligations. So obviously, the international community is there and international law is there, and it's strong. Or take the example of the ICJ affirming last year that the population in Gaza must receive unhindered basic services and humanitarian assistance, including food, water, electricity, and medical supplies. And it was just long before member states agreed to the New York Declaration and even the recent ceasefire. It was a court ruling, a court advice. Dear Undersecretary General Hammarskjöld, Excellencies, legal advisors, this year's International Law Week and the 35th meeting of legal advisors therefore provides an opportunity not only to reflect deeply on today's challenges, but also to chart a renewed path forward, anchored to the UN Charter and the rule of law. And you, the defenders of our international legal order, are in these fragmented geopolitical times more vital than ever before. Because this work does not just take place in the lofty chambers of the Peace Palace at The Hague or even in this very halls here at the United Nations. It happens every day in your capitals, your ministries, your courts, advising your governments, interpreting legal obligations, and negotiating treaties that bind, finally, all of us. And it includes speaking truth to those in power. the words of the ICJ judge, Dayat Tadli, who was once a legal advisor. The job of legal advisors is, he said, to assist political principals to make the right choices, or, if they make the wrong choices, to make them with their eyes wide and open. End of quote. So every part of your work, no matter how technical or incremental, upholds centuries of legal progress and practice. And I therefore said at the opening of the 80th session of the General Assembly, this is no ordinary session. It depends more than ever, not only on heads of states, but it depends on every of us. We stand at a crossroads, and every member state bears a responsibility to choose the right path every day. The path to preserve, defend, and strengthen the international rule of law. So I'm counting on each of you to do just that, standing not only at the crossroads, but being ready to choose the right path for justice. I thank you.